Hey, what up? Welcome to another edition of the Lion's Den. Today, I want to talk to you about church. Don't you just love your church? Don't you think you have the best church in the whole wide world? As much as we love church, we have to admit there are some things that we just don't like about it. Don't you just hate that one person that sings so loud that you can't even hear the worship team sing? Or what about those people that's constantly getting up walking during the service? And what's that finger all about? And don't you just hate it when the pastor says, I'm about to close right now. But then he goes on another 30 minutes. I'm going to my seat in just a minute. And you know those 30-minute offering sermons? Really? Really? Well, here's a reality. Although church is a very good place to be, and we love almost everything about it, there are some things that we just don't like. Some things that just get on our nerves. So I have a question for you. Why don't you do something about it? Today, I really want to talk to the teenagers and the young adults. In the church today, there's a mass exodus of teenagers and young adults. Why is this? It's because of all the things that they don't like about church. All the things that's not making them happy. And instead of them doing something about it, they just complain and then eventually they leave. I want to encourage you, stop complaining. Stop leaving. Instead, do something about it. And just because you're young, don't think that you can't change your church. Don't think that you can't change this world. Because you can. Some of y'all might think that the church is ran by a lot of old people. Well, if the church is ran by a lot of old people, it's because some young people need to step up. Do you realize that the disciples that Jesus chose were young? Here, I'll give you some things to think about. Now, I don't have any proof about their exact age, but there are a lot of hints in the Bible that kind of tells us that they were young, and a few of them were probably teenagers. Let's take a look. In the Jewish tradition, most young men began to follow a rabbi somewhere between the ages of 12 and 30. Most of the time, they were less than 20 years old. So as the disciples were chose to follow Jesus, the rabbi, they were probably somewhere in that age range. You guys remember John the Apostle, the one that wrote the book of Revelations? Well, that book was written somewhere around 96 AD, 66 years after Jesus was crucified. This span of years would probably suggest that John was a teenager when Jesus called him to be a disciple. In the book of Matthew, chapter 17, verses 24 through 27, we see Jesus and the disciples going to pay taxes. Now, the paying of taxes was required by every man that was 20 years of age and older. In this passage of scriptures, we only see Jesus and Peter paying taxes. Now, this doesn't mean that the other disciples didn't pay their taxes, but it could mean that some of them were probably too young to have to pay taxes, so they didn't. We know that a few of them had established jobs. Peter, Andrew, James, John were all fishermen. Matthew was a tax collector. Back then, most Jews finished school about 12 years of age. This would give them plenty of time to establish a job and a career by the time that they're late teenagers and early young adults. So there again, there are some hints in the Bible that would suggest that the 12 disciples were some young guys. And even though they were young, they helped Jesus to change the world forever and to change the church forever. When Jesus called them and asked them to be a disciple, to be a follower of him, there was something on the inside of them that caused them to answer the call. There may have been things in the church that they didn't like, things that was going on in the world that they didn't like. And when they answered that call, they made the decision to do something about it. So young people, I ask you the question, what you gonna do about it? Here's the answer. Do something about it. Until next time, love yourself and I'll love you too.